Good morning, Mike and Arlen. Our Philippine journey. It's been a long day. Had a live this morning and then trying to get this video done, which has a lot of information. I want you to know this is all about the 1% remittance tax that just got passed this past weekend, all right, Friday I think it was, and how it applies, and it does. Let me tell you, it absolutely does. And you are going to be impacted by it. If you live in the Philippines, if you are sending money to the Philippines, if you have a long distance relationship or fiance in the Philippines, if you have a wife in America and she is sending money to her family in the Philippines, it's going to impact you. All right? No ifs, ands, or buts about it the way it's currently written. Now, let's go into this. All right? Why am I doing this? Why am I trying to get this information out? Well, first off, there is a ton of outdated information. In the past 60 days, this law, and it is a law, has changed in its intent and format and rules multiple times. There are a lot of videos out there, newspaper articles, everything else, because once it's put on the internet, they never take it off the internet. And so therefore you can Google this and you're going to come up with 5%, 3.5%, 1%, US citizen, non-US citizen, green card, all right? A lot of that has totally changed. The time to act is now. If after watching this, if this applies to you, if it's going to apply to you, you might want to put together a short email to your congressman or senator and say, hey, this isn't fair. But that's totally up to you. Second thing is how much bigger of an impact than it has on the surface, because it has a huge impact. I would also say, hey, you know what? If you appreciate the effort we put into these videos, please do subscribe, hit the thumbs up, and hit the notify bell so you can see the next one. Now, we're going to look at the bill itself. We're going to look at the law, not the bill. The bill's much crazier. We're going to look at the law in its entirety. It's really short, it's concise, and it's pretty damn thorough. It has one area that's kind of questionable, all right? And we're going to look at that with its exact language. We're going to then look at some theoretical plays and methods of which this may impact you. So first off, here's the bill, all right? Now let's take a look at this. Now, I've highlighted the sections here, all right? There is hereby imposed on any remittance transfer a tax equal to 1% of the amount of such transfer, okay? It says any remittance, anything, all right? That's a very broad spectrum there, okay? The tax imposed by this section with respect to any remittance transfer shall be paid by the sender. You're not the sender. If you're sending money, you're not the sender. The company that makes that transaction, so they're the ones that are going to have to pay the tax, all right? Which, of course, they're going to charge you. There's no doubt about it, number one. And number two, they're going to charge you with a little bit of profit because there's a lot of record keeping, reporting, payments, everything else that goes along with that, because it then goes on to say the collection of the tax. The remittance transfer provider, with respect to any remittance transfer, shall collect the amount of tax imposed under subsection A, which is up above, all right, with respect to such transfer from the sender and remit such tax. So, they're kind of like required to get that from you, all right, that 1%. They have to then quarterly submit that to the US Treasury, which is another important piece that we're going to come to. The US Treasury is a financial institution. Keep that in mind. That's a big deal, especially for those of you on Social Security, SSDI, and veterans. Secondary liability, where any tax imposed by subsection A is not paid at the time the transfer is made, then to the extent that such tax is not collected, such tax shall be paid by the remittance transfer provider, which means even if they don't collect the money from you, they have to pay it. So you can bet, it's ironclad. It's very clear that tax is going to be paid. All right. Now, Section C, tax limited to cash and similar instruments. The tax imposed under subsection A shall apply only to any remittance transfer for which the sender provides cash, a money order, a cashier's check, or any other similar physical instrument as determined by the secretary to the remittance transfer provider. Wow. So the sender's responsible for the tax. Nowhere so far in here has it said anything. All right. One of the biggest misinformation pieces we've been seeing out there is it doesn't apply to U.S. citizens. We read through this. Nowhere does it say it does not apply to U.S. citizens. It's going to apply to U.S. citizens. It's going to apply to green card holders. It's going to apply to legal aliens, illegal aliens. It's going to apply to any remittance. And I think it's interesting to understand it's across the board. In other words, it doesn't matter what tax bracket I'm in. All right. That 1% tax is on the amount sent. Doesn't matter, it doesn't matter whether somebody that makes $20,000 a year sends it or whether somebody that makes $1 million a year sends it. It's 1% tax on the amount that's sent. Now, here's the first part that's interesting. Non-application to certain non-cash remittance transfers, Section A, back up there again, shall not apply to any remittance transfer for which the funds being transferred are withdrawn from an account held in the financial institution. Great. Hold on. Maybe there's some light at the end of the tunnel here, huh? Okay. It says, banks, everything else doesn't apply. All right. Subsection A under number 1, though, says, which is described in some paragraphs A through H of section 5312 A2, Title 31. So I had to go look that up. All right, sections G through H. And so I did. And I'm like, oh, well, this is great. Look, financial institution means an insured bank, a commercial lending trust company, a private banker, an agency or branch of a foreign bank in the United States, say like BPI, okay, credit unions, thrift institutions, brokers, dealers registered with Security Exchange Commissions, a broker or dealer in securities or commissions. Well, that's nice. Or is it? Hold on. Wait, didn't I just read, all right, that, and let me flip right back up here. I'm sorry. Didn't I just read that certain non-cash remittance? So, well, wait a minute. What's non-cash remittance? Well, had to look that up to make sure it make sense that it was exactly as it said, and it refers absolutely to the core difference from a regular remittance cash is that no actual money changes hands. Well, that doesn't help me, and I doubt it helps you. I'm not sure what all, one of the subscribers, we have a ton of great subscribers that are smart, intelligent, understand stuff, know stuff far more than me. And one of them said a non-cash remittance is stuff like stocks, bonds, treasuries, things like that. Okay, so let's just jump. So, well, that means that everything gets applied. All right, especially if it's coming, because we see these people saying that it doesn't apply to U.S. citizens. We're seeing these vloggers saying it doesn't apply for bank transfers. We're seeing these bloggers say it doesn't apply to money you send yourself, all right, or your family. It doesn't say that here. And that's why you've got to get on the ball. Now, this doesn't take effect until January 1st, 2026, but that's going to come across pretty quick, and it can be a big, big deal. So, now there is one piece of something that's interesting here, and it says, and I highlighted this in pink, if it's non-applicable, all right, Section D, non-applicable to certain non-cash remittances, all right, withdrawn from an account held by blank, A, and then is subject to, or two, funded with a credit card or a debit card, which is issued in the United States, all right? Well, I'm not sure. Does this mean that if I want to send out, so let's take a look at some of the most usual options here, okay? Most people are sending money either by a direct wire transfer, Wise, Remitly, Western Union, or another cash app. And you do have, now I haven't used Wise and Western Union in 10 years, but you can fund that with your credit card or your debit card, and there is a bigger fee. Your credit card will, it's like getting cash from your credit card, so you get that cash advance fee, and that's pretty damn pricey in and of itself. So there might be some light at the end of that tunnel, but it makes life a little bit more difficult for sure. All right. The second thing is I'm not so sure I want some of these companies to have that information. That's why I left Western Union and many years ago when the Sarbanes-Oxley rules came in and they got real tight on personal information. But that's a big deal. Funded with a debit card or a credit card. But if you're funding it directly from your bank, well, and then it goes on to give you the definition of remittance, and it goes on to give you the definition of a credit and debit card. Okay? All right. Then it gives you the application of the anti-conduit rules, and then it finally gives you the conforming amendment, and then the effective date. All right, after December 31st, 2025. That is the entire language. Everything in there that we just went through, that's the entire language. So nowhere in the bill or the law, all right, it is law, nowhere in there does it say not applying to U.S. citizens. Nowhere in there does it say sending money to yourself. Keep in mind, this originally started as a 5% excise tax, essentially is what it is, all right? And a 5% tax on money going out of the country to curb illegal immigration, working under the table, sending money home, not keeping money in America is essentially what it boils down to. Well, then there started to come up, okay, I could do a wire transfer. Nowhere in there does it say wire transfers, and it specifically says your bank. All right? You don't get away with that kind of crap. In its current form, it's very clear. Very, very clear. Now, one of the other things that comes up, the 1%, does this apply to ACH transfers? Yes, it absolutely applies to ACH transfers, all right, for personal remittances. The tax applies to all remittances transfers, including those sent by banks and other financial institutions. While the initial proposal included exemptions for transfers from bank accounts, the final bill did not include this example. exemption, meaning ACH transfers are subject to that 1% tax, which brings me to a host of other problems. The first problem, the US Treasury is considered a financial institution. That's who issues, the US Treasury issues Social Security disability. It issues the veterans retirement, veterans disability. It is responsible for all kinds of stuff, including paying the government's debts, and those are debts. Well, now, if you're having that money sent directly into your Philippine bank account, is that going to be taxed? The law is pretty clear on it, but we've got until January 1st to see modifications and changes made. And I think there will be modifications and changes. There's no doubt about it. All right. Now, there is also this other issue of getting the money back. Let's say you were taxed, and when you got taxed, it didn't qualify. For instance, let's say you were buying a condo. Well, this doesn't qualify for goods and services. It goes across the board as cash. So if you're buying something in another country, if you're purchasing goods, if you're purchasing services, you can categorize that. And if you can get your remittance company, whether it's the bank, whether it's Wise, whether it's what you, to categorize it and know then that it doesn't get taxed, well, more power to you. All right. What you claim on your taxes is up to you. But what happens if you couldn't get them to do that? Well, you could, when you file your taxes, you right, get a credit towards what you owe, and theoretically a refund if you overpaid. But you've got to then convince the IRS that you were doing this. So if I'm buying a condo, let me give you some examples here. If I'm buying a condo, I'm making a wire transfer to, say, Mega World or Resort World or wherever. Okay? That's not to an individual. That's pretty simple to show. But suppose I'm buying a piece of land that has a house, all right, and it's 10 million pesos, all right, or whatever, roughly whatever it is, but it's from an individual. Well, that's a personal transfer, and I've got to prove to them at some point that, hey, I purchased an item. So it's possible, but what we're going to have to go through, we don't know. We haven't seen how this exemption is even going to be worded on the 2026 tax forms. So we don't know. We have no idea, and we don't know how long it's going to take to get it back. So there's a whole lot involved in this, but if you're sending money to your LDR by Wise, by PayPal, by whatever, if you're funding her Gcash, if you're doing this, if you're sending money out of the country, you got problems probably. All right. I know we're going to end up having to pay. We send money every month from the U.S. to our Philippine bank account. And that's, how we fund our lifestyle. I don't deposit directly into Philippine banks. I wire into Philippine banks from U.S. banks. But how is that going to apply? Well, I think what's going to happen here is we're going to see something. And I think the more people that send a quick email to their congressman and say, hey, this doesn't quite work. This isn't really fair. I paid taxes on that money when I earned it, all right? And now I'm paying taxes to send it for my own personal use. This doesn't seem fair. I think that if enough people write it'll bring it up. I know I'm already seeing it in some of the economic forums that I'm in. I know that I'm already seeing it in a couple of expat forums. I think it's out there already, and I think it's going to get bigger. What I would like for you to do is two things. The first one is please hit the thumbs up on this. Let's push this video out because there's so much misinformation out there, all right? So that people, at least, even if they don't want to deal with any of it, maybe they will write a letter to their congressman saying, hey, this isn't it. Number two, write a letter and then question directly, what about Treasury? Because I don't know if veterans benefits, I don't know if U.S. veteran benefits can be deposited out of the country automatically, but I do know that Social Security can. And I do know that many people actually have their Social Security disability going directly to Filipino banks. It never even hits a U.S. bank. And in that instance, perhaps you may want to reconsider that because maybe you don't want all of that coming over and it being taxed. And then number two, all right, more importantly, maybe we can get them to, at least for veterans and Social Security recipients, not tax it. I don't know how it's going to work, but what do you think? Tell us in the comments below. The comments will always help push this out. The thumbs up helps push it out. All right, but tell us, what do you think needs to take place? Are you seeing bloggers telling people it doesn't apply to U.S. citizens? Are you saying it doesn't apply to green card holders? Are you seeing people saying it doesn't apply to bank transfers? You saw the law. It's there. Scroll back. That is the entire section. All right. That big, beautiful bill is it's almost 1,000 pages long. And it's in section 7,602. 7602 is the section for tax remittance, 1% remittance tax. Okay? So, it's buried deep in there. Please, do subscribe, hit the thumbs up, put in a comment, tell us what you think. Otherwise, we hope you have a great, wonderful day.